The sand tasted like copper and ash. Lieutenant Jordan Mitchell pressed her face against the scorched earth of Helmand Province, feeling the percussion of mortars walking closer through the ground itself. 40 meters ahead, black smoke climbed from the twisted wreckage of what had been, 30 seconds earlier, a mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicle carrying 6 United States Navy SEALs and one very unlucky Marine Force Recon Gunnery Sergeant. Her brother. The year was 2019. The month was September. The temperature was 112 degrees Fahrenheit, and Jordan Mitchell was 26 years old, decorated, competent, and about to make a choice that would define every single day of the rest of her life. The Taliban had been waiting. That much was clear now, in the terrible clarity that follows an ambush, when the adrenaline kicks in and time does that strange thing where it both speeds up and slows down simultaneously. The road had looked clear. The intelligence had been solid. The route had been used twice before without incident. But someone, somewhere, had made a phone call, or sent a message, or simply waited with the kind of infinite patience that comes from fighting in your own backyard for 20 years. And when the lead MRAP crossed the kill zone, they had executed their ambush with professional precision. First came the rocket-propelled grenade. A Russian design, probably older than Jordan herself, launched from a compound window 300 meters north. The warhead struck the driver's side door at an angle that sent the massive vehicle lurching sideways. Before the driver could correct, the secondary charge detonated. An improvised explosive device buried in the roadbed, wired to a cell phone trigger, containing approximately 40 pounds of homemade explosive packed with ball bearings and scrap metal. The blast had flipped the vehicle. Now Jordan was moving, her boots churning sand, her M4 carbine up and scanning, her training overriding every screaming instinct that told her to take cover. Behind her, Petty Officer Tyler Grant was providing suppressing fire, his weapon barking in controlled 3-round bursts toward the compound. Behind Grant, the rest of their element was establishing a perimeter, calling for quick reaction force, medevac, close air support, all the machinery of modern warfare grinding into motion. But machinery takes time, and time was something the men in that vehicle did not have. Jordan reached the wreckage. The MRAP had come to rest on its side, the armor plating torn open like a tin can, the interior filled with smoke, and the specific sounds that combat medics learned to categorize in the first week of training. The sounds of men who are hurt, the sounds of men who are dying, the sounds of men who cannot tell the difference anymore. She found the first casualty wedged against what used to be the ceiling. Petty Officer Ryan Cross, 24 years old, from a small town in Ohio that Jordan had never heard of. His eyes were open, but unfocused. Blood covered his chest. She grabbed his plate carrier and pulled, using her body weight as leverage, dragging him through the shattered window. Sucking chest wound, collapsed lung, she slapped a chest seal over the entry wound, even as she scanned for the next casualty. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Webb was trying to extract himself. His leg bent at an angle that legs are not supposed to bend. He was conscious, which meant he could scream, which he was doing with an impressive volume. Compound fracture, combat ineffective. Jordan grabbed his drag handle and pulled him clear of the vehicle, ignoring his protest because in 6 seconds this conversation was going to become academic when the fuel tank caught fire. 3 down, 3 to go. Tyler Grant materialized beside her, his weapon slung, his hands reaching into the wreckage. Together they extracted Petty Officer Second Class Eric Stone, who was bleeding from multiple shrapnel wounds but mobile, capable of holding a weapon, capable of walking. Stone immediately moved to cover their position, his rifle coming up even as blood ran down his face. That was 3. The Taliban opened fire. Bullets snapped through the air with that distinctive crack that means they are passing very close to your head. Grant cursed and returned fire. Jordan ignored it all, ignored everything except the math that was playing out in her head. 3 extracted, 3 more inside. Medevac inbound but 6 minutes out. Taliban closing from 2 directions. Quick reaction force 10 minutes away. Fire spreading in the vehicle. And somewhere in that wreckage was her brother. She found him pinned beneath the turret assembly. Gunnery Sergeant Liam Mitchell, 32 years old, Marine Force Recon, attached to SEAL Team 3 for this operation because sometimes the Navy needs Marines to remind them how things used to be done. His eyes met hers through the smoke. He was conscious. He was trapped. And Jordan could see, With the terrible knowledge that comes from 3 combat deployments in 16 months of seeing men die in every configuration imaginable, that moving the turret assembly would require time and leverage and tools that they did not possess. Liam saw it too. His voice was calm. That was what would stay with Jordan for the next 3 years. Not the blood or the smoke or the fire. The absolute infuriating calm of her older brother's voice as he gave her an order. Get them to the landing zone. Jordan Mitchell had been raised in a military family. Her grandfather had served in Vietnam with SEAL Team 1, running river patrols in the Mekong Delta before most Americans even knew where Vietnam was. Her father had served in Desert Storm, though he never talked about it much. Liam had joined the Marines at 18, spent 14 years earning his reputation as the kind of operator that other operators respected. And Jordan had followed him into service, not because she had something to prove, but because it was what Mitchells did. Which meant she understood chain of command. Which meant she understood orders. Which meant she understood that when your senior ranking man gives you a direct command, you execute that command regardless of what every fiber of your being is screaming at you to do instead. But this was her brother. I am not leaving you. Her voice came out hoarse from the smoke. Liam's response was immediate. That is an order, Lieutenant. You are the future. I am the shield. Get them out. The Taliban fire intensified. Someone was shouting for them to move, move, move. The fire in the vehicle was spreading. Jordan could feel the heat now. She reached for Liam's hand. He pushed her away, not with anger, not with fear, with the absolute certainty of a man who has already made his peace with what comes next. His other hand came up holding his M249 squad automatic weapon. Even pinned, even trapped, he could still bring the weapon to bear. He could still buy time. Go, his voice was steady. I will cover your egress. That is what I am here for, Jordan. That is what we do. We get our people home. The mathematics of combat are brutal and simple. 6 wounded men in the open, 1 trapped man who could provide covering fire, a medevac helicopter that needed a secure landing zone, a quick reaction force that needed time to arrive, and Taliban fighters who were, even now, maneuvering for position to overrun the crash site. Jordan Mitchell made her choice. She grabbed Ryan Cross by his plate carrier. She grabbed Marcus Webb by his drag handle. She looked at her brother one last time. Liam nodded. Go show them what the Mitchell family is made of. Then she turned and ran. Tyler Grant ran with her. Eric Stone ran behind them and walking backwards, firing controlled bursts to keep the Taliban heads down. Behind them, the sound of Liam's machine gun opened up. That distinctive ripping sound of a saw on full automatic. 200 rounds per minute of 7.62 millimeter NATO rounds chewing through everything in their arc. 400 meters to the landing zone. Jordan ran carrying Ryan Cross and dragging Marcus Webb. Her legs burned. Her lungs burned. The weight of 2 grown men plus their gear meant she was moving something close to 400 pounds across broken ground, under fire in 112-degree heat. The human body is not designed to do this. The human body will, in fact, begin to shut down quite dramatically when asked to perform beyond its limits. She ran anyway, 300 meters. Webb was conscious enough to try to help, using his good leg to push. Cross was dead weight, his breathing shallow and rapid. Behind them, Liam's weapon continued firing. The sound was constant, relentless, exactly what covering fire is supposed to sound like. 200 meters. Grant was beside her now, helping to carry Cross. Stone was still walking backwards, still firing, his ammunition running low but his discipline holding. The sound of helicopter rotors reached them. Beautiful sound, the most beautiful sound in the world. 100 meters. The machine gun went silent. Jordan did not stop running. She could not afford to stop running because stopping meant thinking and thinking meant processing, and processing meant acknowledging what that silence meant. So she ran and she dragged and she carried, and when she reached the landing zone, she transferred Cross and Webb to the Navy corpsmen who materialized from the helicopter, and then she turned around. The wreckage of the MRAP was burning now, black smoke visible from half a mile away. The Taliban fire had slackened. That meant they were either retreating or consolidating. Neither option was good. The quick reaction force helicopter touched down. 8 more SEALs poured out, weapons up, already moving to secure the crash site. Jordan moved with them, running back toward the wreckage, even though Grant was shouting at her to stay with the casualties, even though every protocol said her job was done. She was not leaving her brother. They found Liam Mitchell still pinned beneath the turret. His weapon was empty, brass casings scattered around him like spent prayers. The Taliban had tried to overrun his position. Past tense. Tried. 14 bodies lay in a rough semicircle around the vehicle, testament to what happens when you charge a United States Marine who has decided that he is not going anywhere. Liam was unconscious, barely breathing, but alive. They extracted him with hydraulic tools in desperation and professionalism. They got him to the medevac helicopter. They performed every procedure in the book and several that were not in any book. The corpsmen worked with the kind of focused intensity that comes from knowing they are fighting death itself and death is winning. 47 minutes after the ambush began, at a forward operating base 30 miles from the crash site, Gunnery Sergeant Liam Mitchell was pronounced dead from catastrophic internal injuries sustained during the vehicle rollover and subsequent entrapment. Jordan Mitchell was not present for that pronouncement. She was already being debriefed by the intelligence officer who needed to know every detail while it was fresh. She was already being checked by the medical officer who needed to make sure she was not injured. She was already being processed through the machinery of military bureaucracy that turns combat into reports and reports into lessons learned. She was told about Liam's death by a chaplain 40 minutes later, in a plywood office that smelled like dust and desperation. The chaplain was kind. The chaplain was professional. The chaplain offered her counseling and time to grieve and all the resources that the United States military provides to service members who have lost someone in combat. Jordan Mitchell said thank you. Then she stood up, walked out of that office, returned to her team, and did not speak about it again. 48 hours later, she was back on patrol. 3 years later, she was standing in the administration building of Naval Special Warfare Command in Coronado, California, reading the orders that would change her life for the second time. The building was concrete and glass, modern and efficient, exactly like every other military administrative building except for the photographs on the walls. Those photographs showed men in various states of being wet, cold, muddy, and determined. They showed SEAL teams from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, all the way up to the present day. They showed a lineage. They showed a legacy. Jordan studied the orders. Advanced Training Command, Instructor Development Course, 12 candidates competing for 3 billets, 6 months of evaluation. Subject matter, close quarters battle and hand-to-hand combat instruction. She had applied for this course 9 months ago before she had fully processed what happened in Helmand Province, before the nightmares had started coming with any regularity, before she understood that teaching the next generation of warriors might be the only way to make sense of surviving when Liam had not. The voice behind her was gravelly and direct. Lieutenant Mitchell, welcome to Coronado. She turned. The man standing there was in his early 50s, gray hair cut high and tight, face weathered by sun and salt and 3 decades of hard use. His uniform was crisp. His boots were polished. The trident insignia on his chest was gold and worn, the mark of a SEAL who had earned his place and kept it through force of will and professional competence. Master Chief Derek Kane. Jordan snapped to attention. Master Chief? Kane's eyes were the color of winter ocean. They studied her with the kind of assessment that sees past the uniform and the decorations and the carefully maintained professional demeanor. He took his time with that assessment. Jordan stood perfectly still and let him look, because this was not about her ego. This was about him deciding whether she could be trusted with the lives of future operators. Finally, Kane nodded. Your brother saved my men. Ryan Cross and Marcus Webb are alive because Gunnery Sergeant Mitchell gave everything. I owe him. I owe you. It was not what Jordan had expected. She had expected professional courtesy. She had expected distant respect. She had not expected this immediate acknowledgement of debt. Sir, my brother did his duty. No debt is owed. Kane's expression did not change. That is where you are wrong, Lieutenant. In this community, when someone saves your men, you remember. You remember their name. You remember their face. You remember their family. And when that man's sister shows up at my command, wanting to teach the next generation how to survive, I pay attention. He gestured toward the door. Walk with me. They walked. Coronado Naval Base sprawls along the coast of Southern California, a combination of historic buildings and modern facilities, all of it focused on the single purpose of creating the most elite warriors in the world. The Buds compound, where candidates undergo basic underwater demolition SEAL training, sits at the water's edge. The obstacle course is visible from the main road. The sound of instructors yelling carries on the wind. Kane led Jordan past the compound, past the training areas, toward a series of buildings that looked newer than the rest. Advanced Training Command. We established this facility 5 years ago. The mission is simple. Take operators who have proven themselves in combat and teach them how to pass that knowledge to the next generation. We are not looking for the toughest operators. We are looking for operators who can create toughness in others. They entered a building. The interior was functional. Classrooms, planning rooms, a full-size close-quarters battle training facility built to look like a small town, complete with doors and windows and stairwells, and all the complexity of urban combat. Kane stopped at an observation window overlooking a training floor. 12 candidates start this course. 3 will graduate. The rest will return to their teams. No shame in that. Teaching requires a different skill set than operating. Some men are natural warriors but cannot communicate what makes them effective. Others can teach but lack the credibility that comes from real-world experience. He turned to look at Jordan directly. You have the experience. 3 combat deployments, multiple decorations. The question is whether you can teach. Jordan met his eyes. I can teach, Master Chief. Kane's response was immediate. Prove it. The next 6 weeks passed in a blur of academic work. Teaching theory, adult learning principles, stress inoculation, performance psychology, the science behind how humans learn complex physical skills under pressure. Jordan absorbed it all, took notes in neat handwriting, asked questions that demonstrated she was actually thinking rather than just memorizing. The other candidates were impressive. Ryan Cross was there, promoted to senior chief, still carrying whatever complicated emotions came from being saved by someone's younger sister. Right before that, someone's brother died. Marcus Webb was there too, walking with a slight limp that would never fully heal, but refusing to let it slow him down. There were 8 others, all combat veterans, all decorated, all professional, and all Jordan noticed, watching her with varying degrees of curiosity and assessment. She ignored it. She had learned over 3 years of being one of the few women in Naval Special Operations that attention was just noise. What mattered was performance. What mattered was competence. Everything else was just people processing their own expectations and biases and preconceptions, which was their problem, not hers. The academic phase concluded. The physical evaluation began. Week 4, hand-to-hand combat instruction module. Each candidate was required to demonstrate teaching ability and technical proficiency. The format was simple. Teach a technique to a group of students, then demonstrate that technique against resistant opponents. Jordan's turn came on a Thursday morning. The training floor smelled like rubber mats and old sweat, the universal smell of every martial arts gym in the world. 20 students sat in formation, all of them advanced training candidates or permanent party instructors, all of them watching. In the back of the room, Master Chief Kane stood with arms folded, his expression unreadable. Jordan took her position at the front of the formation. Today we are covering multiple opponent scenarios, specifically how to handle being outnumbered when lethal force is not authorized or appropriate. This applies to peacetime port security. This applies to dealing with civilians in permissive environments. This applies anytime you need to control a situation without weapons. She paused, making sure she had their attention. The techniques I will demonstrate come from 3 primary sources. Israeli Krav Maga, which prioritizes practical efficiency over style. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which provides ground fighting capability. And Marine Corps martial arts program, which emphasizes aggressive forward momentum. She demonstrated the first technique, a simple redirect and throw using an attacker's momentum against them. She explained the footwork. She explained the hand positioning. She explained the physiological response of the human body when its balance is disrupted. Then she demonstrated the second technique, a leg sweep combined with a controlled takedown. She explained timing. She explained weight distribution. She explained how to read an opponent's movement and anticipate the opening. The students watched. Some took notes. Others recorded video on their phones, which was standard practice. Kane continued to watch from the back of the room. Jordan finished the teaching portion. Now comes the demonstration. I need volunteers. 4 hands went up immediately. Ryan Cross, Marcus Webb, Senior Chief Eric Stone, who had been quiet throughout the course but whose file showed extensive combat experience in Iraq, and Lieutenant Commander Victor Ramirez, a Desert Storm veteran, older than the rest, carrying 20 years of experience in his posture and his eyes. Jordan nodded. All four of you. Let us see if these techniques work against trained opponents. The room got quieter. 4 opponents against 1 defender was not standard. 3 was typical. 4 was pushing the boundary of what made sense as an instructional demonstration versus what looked like showing off. Kane's voice cut through the silence. You sure about that, Lieutenant? Jordan turned to face him. Master Chief, in real-world scenarios, operators do not get to choose how many opponents they face. Better to train hard than to fight easy. Kane studied her for 3 long seconds. Then he nodded. Your demonstration, your rules. Time hack, 120 seconds. Begin on my mark. Jordan took her position in the center of the mat. The 4 men spread out around her, forming a loose diamond. All of them were bigger than her. All of them were combat veterans. All of them knew how to fight. This was not training. This was a test. Kane raised his hand. On my mark. 3, 2, 1, execute. Marcus Webb moved first. He came in fast, testing her reaction time, throwing a haymaker punch that had power behind it. Jordan sidestepped, redirected his arm, used his momentum to send him past her and onto the mat with a textbook Osoto Gary throw. Webb hit hard, the air driven from his lungs. 0.7 seconds elapsed. Eric Stone and Ryan Cross moved simultaneously, coordinated, trying to overwhelm her with multiple angles of attack. Jordan dropped her center of gravity, swept Stone's advancing leg out from under him with a Dei Ashibarai, then pivoted to face Cross, who was already committed to his attack. She grabbed his wrist, turned her hip into his body, executed a Tai Otoshi throw that sent him rolling across the mat. 2.3 seconds elapsed. The room was silent except for the sound of breathing and bodies hitting mats. Victor Ramirez moved last. He moved like a man who had learned patience through long experience. He did not rush. He did not telegraph. He simply closed distance with professional efficiency, his hands up in a proper fighting stance, his weight balanced, his eyes tracking her center mass rather than her hands or feet. He was 40 years old and he had been fighting since before Jordan was born, and it showed. Jordan respected that. She adjusted her strategy, waiting for him to commit, using angles to stay out of his reach while the other 3 were recovering. Ramirez cut off the ring, professional and patient. He threw 2 jabs, testing her reaction. She slipped both, countering with a leg kick that he checked effortlessly. 15 seconds elapsed. This was not going to be quick. Behind Ramirez, Marcus Webb was getting to his feet. The rules had not specified that opponents were eliminated after being taken down, which meant Jordan was about to face multiple opponents again, except this time, they would be angry and less likely to make mistakes. The mathematics of the situation were clear. She needed to finish Ramirez or reposition. Finishing him would require techniques that crossed the line from demonstration into actual combat. Repositioning meant defensive movement, which looked like running, which would undermine the entire purpose of this demonstration. There was a third option. Jordan stopped moving. She stood in the center of the mat, hands down, facing Ramirez. Lieutenant Commander, you have the experience and the skill. I could spend the next minute trying techniques that might work, or I could acknowledge what we both know. Ramirez tilted his head, curious. What do we both know, Lieutenant? In a real scenario, I would have used a weapon, or called for backup, or extracted. The lesson here is not about defeating 4 trained operators in hand-to-hand combat. The lesson is about recognizing when you are outmatched and making tactical decisions accordingly. She turned to face Master Chief Kane. Sir, in actual combat, I would not have engaged 4 opponents of this caliber without weapons or support. The purpose of hand-to-hand combat training is not to create super warriors who can defeat any number of opponents. The purpose is to give operators options when their primary weapons fail. Those options include disengagement and evasion. The room remained silent. Jordan could not read the expressions around her. She had just done something that could be interpreted as quitting, or it could be interpreted as demonstrating tactical wisdom. The line between those 2 interpretations was thin and entirely dependent on how Master Chief Kane chose to frame it. Kane walked onto the mat. He walked past Jordan, past the 4 opponents, to the center of the training floor. Then he turned to address the entire room. In 30 years of service, I have seen 3 types of operators. The first type believes they are invincible and gets themselves killed, learning otherwise. The second type knows their limits but lets fear paralyze them when those limits are tested. The third type knows their limits and uses that knowledge to make better decisions. He pointed at Jordan. Lieutenant Mitchell just demonstrated the rarest and most valuable quality in a combat operator. She demonstrated the ability to recognize when ego needs to take a back seat to tactical reality. She could have continued fighting. She would have looked tough, and she would have taught you absolutely nothing useful. Kane's expression was serious. In Afghanistan, Lieutenant Mitchell made a choice. She could stay with her brother and die with him, making herself feel better about loyalty and family. Or she could follow his orders, extract the casualties, and live with the fact that she left him behind. She made the hard choice, the tactical choice, the choice that saved lives. He looked around the room. That is what instructors teach. Not how to be the toughest guy in the bar, how to be the operator who brings everyone home. Lieutenant Mitchell has demonstrated that she understands this principle. Does everyone else understand it? The room was silent for 3 seconds. Then Ryan Cross stood up from where he had been sitting after being thrown. His voice was quiet but clear. Master Chief, I was one of the men she brought home. Liam Mitchell gave me his life. Jordan Mitchell gave me a future. I understand the principle. Marcus Webb stood up next. So do I, Master Chief. Victor Ramirez nodded from where he stood. Message received, Master Chief. Message received. Kane turned back to Jordan. Time on the demonstration was 18.4 seconds before you stopped. Not the fastest I have seen, not the slowest, but definitely the smartest. Secure from this exercise. Jordan nodded. Aye, Master Chief. The evaluation continued through the rest of the week. Other candidates took their turns. Some were impressive, some were adequate. None of them stopped in the middle of their demonstration to make a teaching point about tactical decision-making. Friday afternoon, Kane called Jordan to his office. The office was sparse. A desk, a computer, a bookshelf filled with manuals and training documents. One photograph on the wall showing a young Kane in Vietnam-era gear standing with other young operators, all of them looking impossibly young and impossibly confident. Kane gestured for Jordan to sit. She remained standing. He did not insist. Lieutenant, I need to tell you something. Your brother and I served together, not in Afghanistan, in Iraq. Ramadi, 2006. Jordan's expression did not change, but something shifted inside her chest. I was team leader. Liam was a young Marine attached to our element for a joint operation. Urban patrol. We walked into an ambush. Building collapsed. I got trapped. Liam had a choice. Extract the team or stay and try to dig me out. He stayed. Kane's voice was matter-of-fact, but his eyes were distant, seeing something that happened 17 years ago. He pulled me out. Took him 40 minutes. Taliban was closing in. My team was screaming at him over the radio to leave me and get clear. He ignored them, got me out, got me to medevac, nearly got himself killed doing it. He focused back on Jordan. I was furious at him. After I recovered, I tracked him down. I told him he made the wrong tactical choice. Told him he risked the entire operation for one man. You know what he said? Jordan's voice was quiet. What did he say, Master Chief? Kane smiled, but there was no humor in it. He said, some brothers, you do not leave, even if the math says to. He said, honor is not always about the smartest choice. Sometimes it is about the choice you can live with. The office was silent except for the distant sound of helicopters overhead. For 17 years, I wondered if he was right or if he was just young and stupid and lucky. Then Afghanistan happened. He made the same choice for you and for my men. This time luck ran out. Kane opened a desk drawer. He pulled out a small wooden box. From the box, he extracted 2 metal rectangles stamped with raised letters and numbers. Dog tags. These are Liam's. The notification officer gave them to me by mistake when they were processing his personal effects. I have been carrying them for 3 years, trying to figure out how to get them to you. Now you are here, in my command, asking to become an instructor. He placed the dog tags on the desk between them. I am not testing you because I doubt you, Lieutenant. I am testing you because I owe your brother. The only way I can honor his memory is to make sure his sister is undeniable. Not just good, undeniable. Because when you graduate this course, you are going to face every kind of skepticism and bias and political nonsense that comes with being a woman in this community. And I need to know that when they come at you, you will have the skills and the wisdom and the tactical mindset to prove them wrong without saying a single word. He pushed the dog tags across the desk. You have not earned these yet, but you will. And when you do, you will know you earned them the right way, through blood and sacrifice and wisdom, just like Liam would have wanted. Jordan picked up the dog tags. They were worn smooth from 3 years of Master Chief Kane carrying them. She closed her fingers around them. "Thank you, Master Chief." Kane nodded. "Do not thank me yet. The hard part is coming." Week 6, final evaluation. Every candidate demonstrates full teaching capability and combat proficiency. You will face the best opponents I can assemble, and you will prove that Liam Mitchell's sacrifice meant something. He stood up. "Dismissed, Lieutenant." Jordan stood at attention, rendered a perfect salute, and walked out of that office with her brother's dog tags in her pocket and Master Chief Kane's voice echoing in her head. "You have not earned these yet, but you will." Week 6 arrived like a storm that had been building on the horizon for a long time. The format was announced on Monday morning. Each candidate would conduct a full teaching module on their chosen subject, followed by a live demonstration against multiple opponents selected by the evaluation board. The demonstration would be timed, filmed, and graded on technical proficiency, tactical decision-making, and teaching value. Jordan spent Monday through Wednesday preparing. She refined her lesson plan. She drilled her techniques. She studied video of the other candidates, analyzing their approaches, learning from their strengths and weaknesses. Thursday morning, she was scheduled to conduct her evaluation. The training floor was full. Not just the 12 candidates, not just the permanent party instructors. The senior staff had arrived then. Commander James Walsh, a Vietnam-era SEAL, gray-haired and distinguished. Captain Richard Stone, Eric Stone's father, a retired operator with a reputation for impossible standards. Senior Chief Linda Torres, the first female SEAL instructor, quiet and professional and impossible to read. And Master Chief Derek Kane, standing in the back with his arms folded and his expression neutral. Jordan took her position. She taught for 40 minutes, covering multiple opponent scenarios with detailed breakdowns of technique, timing, and tactical decision-making. The class asked questions. She answered them with precision and clarity. She demonstrated techniques slowly, explaining each movement, each weight shift, each decision point. Then came the demonstration. Kane, step forward. "Lieutenant Mitchell, for your demonstration, you will face 4 opponents of your choosing. Time hack, 120 seconds. Select your opponents." Jordan did not hesitate. Senior Chief Cross, Chief Webb, Senior Chief Stone, and Lieutenant Commander Ramirez. The same 4 from her previous demonstration. The room noticed. The 4 men noticed. They moved onto the mat, spreading into positions around her. Kane's voice was formal. "Lieutenant Mitchell, this is a full contact demonstration. Rules of engagement are as follows. No strikes to groin, throat, or eyes. No joint breaks. Otherwise, treat this as real-world force on force. Do you understand?" "Aye, Master Chief." Kane looked at the 4 opponents. "Do you understand?" 4 voices answered in unison. "Aye, Master Chief." Kane raised his hand. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1. His hand dropped. "Execute." But before anyone could move, Victor Ramirez stepped forward, his hand raised. "Master Chief, permission to speak." Kane's expression did not change. "Granted." Ramirez reached into his pocket. He pulled out a worn envelope. From the envelope, he extracted 2 pieces of metal that caught the light. "Dog tags. Sir, I need to present these to Lieutenant Mitchell before we begin. I have carried them for 3 years. They belong to Gunnery Sergeant Liam Mitchell. I was part of the quick reaction force that arrived at the crash site in Helmand Province. These were around his neck when we extracted him. In the chaos, they ended up with me instead of going through proper channels. I have been trying to find his family ever since." He held them out to Jordan. "I did not know you were his sister until I saw your service record last week. These are yours." The training floor was absolutely silent. Jordan looked at the dog tags. Then she looked at Ramirez. Then she looked at Master Chief Kane, whose expression had shifted into something complicated. "Lieutenant Commander, I appreciate this, but I cannot accept them right now." Ramirez frowned. "Lieutenant, these belong to your family." "They do, and I will take them. After I earn them, after I prove that Liam Mitchell's sacrifice was not in vain, after I demonstrate that his sister is capable of teaching the next generation of operators how to survive." She met his eyes. "Put them in your pocket, sir. When this demonstration is complete, you can give them to me properly." Ramirez studied her face. Then he nodded, placed the dog tags back in his pocket, and returned to his position on the mat. Kane's voice cut through the silence. "Time hack restarts now. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Execute." This time there was no hesitation. Marcus Webb came in first, fast and aggressive, trying to overwhelm her with forward pressure. Jordan sidestepped, redirected, threw him with an Osoto Gari that put him on his back. One down, 3 seconds elapsed. Eric Stone and Ryan Cross moved together, coordinated, professional. Jordan went low, swept Stone's legs, used his falling body as cover to pivot and face Cross. Cross grabbed for a clinch. She broke his grip, executed a hip throw that sent him rolling. 2 down, 8 seconds elapsed. Victor Ramirez waited, patient, analyzing. The other 3 were getting up. This was about to become 4-on-1 again. Jordan made her decision. She charged Ramirez. It was aggressive, unexpected, exactly the opposite of what defensive tactics training teaches. Ramirez reacted on instinct, setting up to counter her attack, which meant his weight was committed forward, which meant when Jordan suddenly dropped and went for a double-leg takedown, his center of gravity was too far forward to stop her. They went down together. Jordan immediately transitioned to side control, then to mount position. Ramirez tried to buck her off. She rode it out, maintaining position, her weight distributed perfectly, her base solid. 15 seconds elapsed. Webb grabbed her from behind. She had been expecting it. She rolled backward into him, using his own grip against him, executing a reversal that put her on top of both of them. Then she extracted herself, rolling clear, coming up to her feet. 20 seconds elapsed. This was not sustainable. They were bigger, stronger, and there were 4 of them. If she tried to fight them one at a time, they would wear her down. If she tried to be defensive, they would eventually land something that mattered. Time for a teaching moment. Jordan stopped moving. She stood in the center of the mat, hands at her sides, facing all 4 men. Master Chief Kane requests permission to stop the demonstration. The room went absolutely still. Kane's voice was carefully neutral. Granted. What is your reason, Lieutenant? Jordan turned to face him directly. Sir, the scenario as constructed is not realistic. In real-world conditions, I would not engage 4 trained operators without weapons or support. This demonstration has proven that I possess technical proficiency and tactical creativity. Continuing it would only prove that I can get tired and eventually overwhelmed. She gestured to the 4 men. These operators are highly skilled. They could defeat me through attrition, but that would teach the wrong lesson to future operators. The lesson is not fight until you are overwhelmed. The lesson is recognize when you are outmatched, adapt your tactics, and survive to fight another day. Kane walked onto the mat. He stopped 3 feet from Jordan. His eyes were unreadable. Lieutenant Mitchell, are you saying you cannot complete this demonstration? No, Master Chief. I am saying I already completed it. The purpose was to demonstrate teaching ability and tactical proficiency. I have done both. Continuing would be ego, not education. The silence stretched out. Jordan could feel every eye in the room on her. She had just done something that could end her career in this community before it truly began. She had stopped a demonstration in front of senior staff. She had essentially declared that she knew better than the evaluation format. It was a massive risk, but it was also the truth. Master Chief Kane looked at her for 5 more seconds. Then he looked at the 4 opponents. Then he looked at the senior staff sitting in observation. Then he turned back to Jordan. In 30 years of service, only 3 people have ever stopped one of my demonstrations before completion. 2 of them are now Master Chiefs. One is a Command Master Chief. All 3 stopped because they understood the difference between proving toughness and demonstrating wisdom. He stepped closer to Jordan, his voice dropping so only she could hear. Your brother made the hard choice in Ramadi. He made the hard choice in Helmand Province. Today you made the hard choice. You chose teaching over ego. That is exactly what instructors do. He raised his voice so the entire room could hear. Lieutenant Mitchell has successfully completed her evaluation. Time on mat, 23 seconds before she demonstrated tactical wisdom. Secure from this exercise. He turned to Victor Ramirez. Lieutenant Commander, I believe you have something for the lieutenant. Ramirez stepped forward. He pulled out both sets of dog tags, the ones he had carried and the ones Kane had given Jordan earlier. He held them both out. Lieutenant Mitchell, these represent 2 men who understood sacrifice. Your brother gave his life so others could live. Master Chief Kane has spent 30 years making sure those lives were worth saving. You honor them both by choosing wisdom over ego. Jordan took the dog tags, both sets. The weight of them in her hand felt like responsibility and legacy and the future all at once. Thank you, Lieutenant Commander. Master Chief Kane addressed the room one final time. This course will graduate 3 instructors. The selection board will deliberate tonight and announce results tomorrow. Candidates are dismissed. The room cleared slowly. Jordan remained on the mat, holding the dog tags, feeling the weight of the past 3 years and the next 30 years all pressing down at once. Ryan Cross approached her. His voice was quiet. Your brother saved me. You saved me by getting me out. Master Chief Kane saved me by training me to be better. You are continuing that cycle. Thank you. Marcus Webb was next. I did not understand what you were doing during the demonstration. Now I do. You were teaching us that survival is more important than victory. Eric Stone simply nodded. Respect, Lieutenant. Victor Ramirez was last. He extended his hand. Your brother was a warrior. You are a warrior. The difference is you are also a teacher. The community needs both. They left her alone then. Jordan stood on the mat in the empty training floor, holding the dog tags of her brother and feeling the ghost of Master Chief Kane's words echoing in her head. You have not earned these yet, but you will. She had. The selection board met that evening in a secure conference room. Commander Walsh presided. Master Chief Kane, Senior Chief Torres, Captain Stone, and 2 other senior instructors comprised the rest of the board. Walsh opened the proceedings. 12 candidates entered this course. 3 billets are available. We will now discuss each candidate and render our assessments. Master Chief Kane, you are the senior instructor. Your input carries significant weight. Begin with your assessment of Lieutenant Mitchell. Kane was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. Lieutenant Mitchell is the finest tactical mind I have evaluated in 5 years. She possesses technical proficiency, teaching ability, and most importantly, the wisdom to know when tactics matter more than ego. I assess her fully qualified and recommended for selection. Senior Chief Torres spoke next. I have concerns. Lieutenant Mitchell stopped 2 demonstrations before completion. While the outcomes were positive, I worry about precedent. Are we teaching candidates they can quit when things get difficult? Captain Stone responded. She did not quit. She recognized teaching moments and executed them. That is different. Commander Walsh held up his hand. Before we continue, I need to make a statement. I am recusing myself from voting on Lieutenant Mitchell. The room went silent. Walsh continued. In 1973, I served with Gunnery Sergeant Liam Mitchell, SEAL Team 1, Mekong Delta Operations. He was Lieutenant Mitchell's grandfather. He saved my life during a river patrol ambush. I did not know this connection until I reviewed her service record this afternoon. If I vote for her, it appears as favoritism. If I vote against her, it appears as overcompensation. Either way, I compromise the integrity of this board. He stood up. I am removing myself from this evaluation. The remaining 4 board members will render the decision. Master Chief Kane, you are now senior member. Proceed with deliberations. Kane nodded. Understood, Commander. Walsh left the room. The deliberations continued for 2 more hours. Every candidate was discussed. Every strength and weakness was analyzed. Every bias and assumption was challenged. Finally, Kane called for a vote. 3 billets, 12 candidates, show of hands for each candidate. When the voting concluded, 3 names had been selected unanimously. Lieutenant Jordan Mitchell was one of them. The results were announced the next morning. Jordan stood in formation with the other 11 candidates, all of them in dress uniforms, all of them exhausted from 6 months of the hardest professional evaluation any of them had ever endured. Master Chief Kane read the names. 3 candidates stepped forward. Jordan was the second name called. Kane addressed them. You 3 have proven you possess the skills, the knowledge, and most importantly, the wisdom to teach the next generation of operators. Your first assignment begins in 2 weeks. You will report to Bud's Training Command to begin instructor duties. Congratulations. The formation was dismissed. Families congratulated their sailors. Fellow candidates shook hands. The machinery of military administration ground forward. Jordan found Master Chief Kane standing alone near the back of the room. She approached him, came to attention. Master Chief, permission to speak. Granted. Thank you, Master Chief, for everything, for honoring my brother, for testing me, for making sure I was ready. Kane's expression softened slightly. Lieutenant, I did not make you ready. You were already ready. I just made sure everyone else knew it. Now comes the hard part. You have 6 months to prove you can teach. After that, you will face every kind of challenge that comes with being a pioneer. Stay focused. Stay professional. And remember what your brother taught you. What was that, Master Chief? Kane smiled. Some brothers you do not leave behind. Your brother is gone. But his legacy lives in every operator you train, in every technique you teach, in every life you save by making sure they are ready. That is how you honor him. Not by being perfect, by being undeniable. Jordan nodded. Aye, Master Chief. She walked out of that building with her brother's dog tags around her neck, Master Chief Kane's words in her head, and 6 months of training future warriors ahead of her. The hard part was just beginning, but she was ready. She had been ready since the day she dragged Ryan Cross and Marcus Webb 400 meters across Afghan desert while her brother bought them time with his life. She had been ready since the day she chose tactical wisdom over personal glory. She had been ready since the moment she understood that strength is not about never falling down. Strength is about getting back up, carrying the weight of those who did not, and teaching the next generation how to be worthy of their sacrifice. Jordan Mitchell was 29 years old. She was a Navy SEAL lieutenant. She was an advanced training command instructor. She was the sister of a hero. She was the granddaughter of a warrior. She was the future of a legacy that stretched back 50 years. And she was just getting started. 6 months changes everything and nothing. The Pacific Ocean looked the same as it had when Lieutenant Jordan Mitchell first arrived at Coronado. The same gray-green water, the same white foam breaking against the same stretch of California coastline, the same obstacle course sitting at the edge of the same beach where generations of candidates had discovered exactly what they were made of. But Jordan was different now. She stood at the edge of the training compound, watching the sun come up over the water, and felt the weight of Liam's dog tags against her chest beneath her instructor uniform. 6 months ago, she had been a candidate, proving herself, fighting for a chance to teach. Now she was an instructor, responsible for shaping the next generation of Naval Special Warfare operators. The responsibility felt heavier than any rucksack she had ever carried. Behind her, the barracks were starting to wake up. Class 347 had arrived 2 weeks ago, 140 candidates. All of them volunteers, all of them thinking they understood what they had signed up for. In 4 days, Hell Week would begin. 5.5 days of continuous training with a maximum of 4 hours of sleep total. Cold water, soft sand, physical evolution after physical evolution designed to find the breaking point of human endurance and then push past it. Jordan's job was to teach them hand-to-hand combat before Hell Week broke them, to give them one more tool in their arsenal, to make sure that if they survived the crucible of Bud's training, they would be warriors who could fight with or without weapons, just like Liam had taught her. The morning air was cool. Jordan breathed it in, centering herself, preparing for what came next. Teaching was harder than operating. Operating had clear objectives, clear rules of engagement, clear measures of success. Teaching required patience, adaptation, and the ability to see potential in people who had not yet discovered it in themselves. Footsteps approached from behind. Jordan recognized the cadence before turning around. Senior Chief Ryan Cross, now permanently assigned to Buds as an instructor, his limp from the Afghanistan injuries barely noticeable anymore. Morning, Lieutenant. Class is forming up. They are excited about hand-to-hand combat training, think it is going to be fun. Jordan allowed herself a small smile. They always think it is going to be fun, until they realize that getting thrown on their back repeatedly is not actually entertaining. Cross nodded. Webb is running them through warm-up drills. Stone is setting up the training mats. Kane wants to observe your first session with them. Of course he does. Master Chief Kane had been watching Jordan's progression as an instructor with the same intensity he had applied to her evaluations 6 months ago. Not because he doubted her capability, because he was invested in her success, because he owed Liam, because making sure Jordan succeeded was how he honored a debt 17 years in the making. Jordan turned toward the training compound. Let us go teach them something useful. The training floor was organized chaos. 140 candidates in matching PT gear, divided into boat crews of 7 men each, all of them performing warm-up exercises under Senior Chief Marcus Webb's direction. Push-ups, mountain climbers, burpees, the standard suite of calisthenics designed to elevate heart rate and prepare muscles for hard use. Webb saw Jordan approaching and called the class to attention. The response was immediate. 140 men snapping to standing position, arms at their sides, eyes forward. The discipline was impressive. These were not random civilians off the street. These were sailors who had already made it through boot camp, through A school, through the initial screening that determined they were even allowed to attempt Bud ES. But discipline and capability were not the same thing. Webb turned the class over to Jordan. Your instructor for hand-to-hand combat is Lieutenant Mitchell. When she speaks, you listen. When she demonstrates, you watch. When she tells you to do something, you execute immediately and without question. Is that understood? 140 voices responded in unison. Hoo-yah, Senior Chief! Jordan stepped forward. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. The training floor was designed with acoustics that carried sound perfectly to every corner. This morning, you will learn the foundational principles of Naval Special Warfare hand-to-hand combat. These techniques draw from multiple martial arts disciplines: Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for ground fighting, Muay Thai for striking, wrestling for control and positioning, and most importantly, practical experience from operators who have used these techniques in real-world combat situations. She paused, letting that sink in. Some of you are thinking this training is not relevant. You are thinking modern warfare is about weapons and technology. You are thinking hand-to-hand combat is something from movies, not from actual operations. You are wrong. Jordan gestured to Senior Chief Cross. Senior Chief, tell them about Helmand Province 2017. Cross stepped forward. His voice carried the flat affect of someone recounting facts rather than seeking sympathy. Nighttime raid. High-value target compound. I was point man entering through a doorway. My weapon malfunctioned. Failure to extract. The target was 3 feet away with an AK-47. I had approximately 1 second before he fired. He demonstrated the movements as he spoke. I used a technique Lieutenant Mitchell is going to teach you today. I closed the distance, controlled his weapon, executed a takedown, and maintained control until my team could secure him. If I had not known hand-to-hand combat, I would be dead. The mission would have failed. Other operators would have been at risk extracting my body. He stepped back. Learn these techniques like your life depends on them, because someday it will. The class was silent now. The casual confidence that had been present when they first formed up had evaporated. Good. Confidence without competence got people killed. Jordan moved to the center of the training mat. I need a volunteer, someone who thinks they already know how to fight. Hands shot up immediately. Jordan scanned the crowd looking for a specific type. Not the biggest, not the most aggressive. The one who was confident but not arrogant. The one who would represent a legitimate challenge without turning the demonstration into ego. She pointed to a candidate in the third row. Step forward. The candidate moved quickly. He was mid-20s, fit, approximately 6 feet tall, and 190 pounds. His name tape read Torres. His bearing suggested prior military experience, possibly Army or Marines before cross-rating to Navy. Torres stood at attention. Lieutenant, at ease, Torres. Tell the class your background. Torres relaxed slightly. Ma'am, I served 4 years Marine Corps infantry before cross-rating to Navy. I have training in Marine Corps martial arts program, brown belt level. Good. That means you understand basics. Now let me show you what happens when you face someone who understands advanced application. Jordan did not give him time to prepare. She moved into range and executed a simple technique. A jab to establish distance, a low kick to disrupt his base, and when he instinctively dropped his hands to check the kick, she shot in for a double leg takedown. Torres went down hard, and before he could recover, Jordan had transitioned to mount position, simulating strikes to his face. The entire sequence took 3 seconds. Jordan stood up and offered Torres a hand. He took it, clearly surprised but not embarrassed. She addressed the class. Torres has legitimate training. He knows techniques, but knowing techniques and applying them under pressure are different skills. Today we will drill both. You will learn the movements until they become automatic. Then you will practice them under resistance until they become reliable. She gestured to the boat crews. Divide into pairs. We will start with basic takedown defense. The next 4 hours were brutal and educational in equal measure. Jordan moved through the class, correcting form, demonstrating variations, explaining the physiological principles that made certain techniques effective. Senior Chief Cross and Senior Chief Webb circulated as well, providing additional instruction, pushing candidates who were coasting, encouraging those who were struggling. By midday, every candidate was exhausted, bruised, and significantly more humble than they had been that morning. Jordan called the class back to formation. This afternoon, you have log PT and surf passage. Tomorrow, we continue hand-to-hand combat with ground fighting techniques. Friday, we cover multiple opponent scenarios. Questions? A hand went up in his back. Jordan pointed to the candidate. Speak. The candidate was young, maybe 20 years old. Ma'am, how did you learn to fight like that? Jordan considered the question. There were easy answers. She could talk about training and schools and certifications. But these candidates were about to enter Hell Week, where they would discover things about themselves they did not know existed. They deserved truth, not platitudes. I learned from my brother. He was Marine Force Recon. He taught me that fighting is not about being tough. It is about being technical, about using leverage and positioning and timing. He taught me that weapons fail, bodies break, but discipline lasts. She paused, feeling the weight of Liam's dog tags. My brother died in Afghanistan 3 years ago. He died buying time for his team to extract casualties. The techniques I am teaching you are the same techniques he taught me. Learn them well. Honor his sacrifice by becoming operators who bring everyone home. The training floor was silent. Jordan dismissed the class. They filed out slowly, exhausted, thoughtful, changed in small ways they would not fully understand until later. Master Chief Derek Kane materialized from the observation area. He had been watching the entire session, silent and present. His expression was unreadable. Well executed, Lieutenant. You have their attention. Now comes the hard part, keeping it. Jordan nodded. Aye, Master Chief. Kane gestured toward his office. Walk with me. We need to discuss something. They walked in silence through the compound. Other instructors nodded as they passed. Candidates scrambled out of the way, maintaining proper military bearing. The sun was high now, heating the concrete and sand, creating that specific microclimate that existed only at Coronado, where ocean breeze and desert heat fought for dominance. Kane's office was exactly as Jordan remembered from 6 months ago. Sparse, functional. The same photograph on the wall of young operators in Vietnam-era gear. But now Jordan noticed something she had missed before. One of those young operators looked familiar. The bone structure, the eyes, the way he stood. That is my father. Jordan turned. Kane was watching her study the photograph. His voice was quiet but clear. Master Chief Petty Officer Richard Kane. SEAL Team 1. 3 tours in Vietnam. Killed in action, 1972, during a river patrol in the Mekong Delta. I was 6 years old, never really knew him, but I knew what he represented. Legacy, duty, sacrifice. Kane moved to stand beside Jordan, both of them looking at the photograph. That photograph was taken in 1968. My father is second from the left. The man next to him, third from the left, is Gunnery Sergeant Liam Mitchell. Jordan's breath caught. Her grandfather. Kane nodded. They served together for 18 months. When my father was killed, your grandfather was with him. He tried to save him. Could not. But he made it his mission to look after my mother and me after my father died. He made sure we had what we needed. He attended my high school graduation. He wrote me a letter of recommendation when I applied to BUD/S. He turned to face Jordan directly. Your family has been saving my family for 50 years. Your grandfather saved my mother from poverty and despair after my father died. Your brother saved me from a collapsed building in Ramadi. And now you are here teaching the next generation, continuing that legacy. The office felt smaller suddenly. Jordan had known her grandfather served in Vietnam. She had not known the depth of connections that existed between the Kane and Mitchell families. 3 generations, 50 years, a web of debts and obligations and honor that stretched across time. Master Chief, I did not know. Kane's expression was serious. I did not tell you during your evaluation because it would have complicated things. But you need to know now because what I am about to ask you matters. Hell Week starts Friday. Class 347 will break. They always do. Historically, 60 to 75% quit before Hell Week ends. The ones who remain are exhausted, battered, questioning everything. He paused. On Saturday night during Hell Week, I want you to teach a special session. 2 hours, hand-to-hand combat, in the dark, in the cold, when they are already beyond their limits. Jordan understood immediately. You want me to push them past their breaking point while teaching them to fight. Exactly. I want you to demonstrate that technique and discipline can carry you when strength fails. I want you to show them that the human body can do impossible things if the mind refuses to quit. And I want you to do it because you represent something they need to see. Legacy, continuation, the idea that sacrifice means something. It was a significant responsibility. Teaching during Hell Week was traditionally reserved for the most senior instructors. Jordan had been an instructor for 6 months. She was 29 years old. She was a woman in a community that had only recently begun to accept women in combat roles. But she was also a Mitchell, and Mitchells did not refuse when duty called. I, Master Chief, I will be ready. Kane nodded. I know you will. Your grandfather would be proud. Your brother would be proud. And Lieutenant, one more thing. Yes, Master Chief. Do not go easy on them. The ocean does not care about their feelings. The enemy does not care about their exhaustion. Show them what real operators endure. Jordan understood. Aye, Master Chief, no mercy. The next 3 days passed in a blur of training. Jordan taught takedowns and ground fighting and submission techniques. She taught how to fight from inferior positions. She taught how to create opportunities from disadvantage. And most importantly, she taught the mental game. How to stay calm under pressure. How to breathe through panic. How to think tactically even when your body is screaming at you to quit. The candidates absorbed it all, like dry ground absorbing rain. They were young and eager and terrified and determined. By Thursday evening, they had learned enough to be dangerous to themselves and marginally useful in actual combat. Friday at sunset, Hell Week began. Jordan watched from the instructor area as the surf torture started. Candidates sitting in the Pacific Ocean in February, arms linked, waves washing over them, their body temperatures dropping degree by degree. The instructors circulated with megaphones and flashlights, applying psychological pressure, looking for weakness, offering the option to quit. Just ring the bell. Warm shower, hot coffee, medical evaluation. All the pain stops immediately. Some rang the bell in the first hour. By midnight, 20 more had quit. By Saturday morning, the class had lost 40% of its starting strength. 84 remained. They were hypothermic, exhausted, covered in sand, and they still had 4 more days of this ahead of them. Saturday afternoon, they were given a brief respite, 4 hours to eat, treat injuries, and receive medical evaluation. Then the evolutions continued. Log PT surf passage, boat races, over the beach, everything designed to find the limit and push past it. Saturday evening, as the sun set over the Pacific, Jordan received word from Master Chief Kane. Time for your session, Lieutenant. Training bay, 2 hours. Make it count. Jordan gathered her gear, rubber training mats, focus mitts, headgear for full contact sparring. She set up the training bay with help from Senior Chief Cross and Senior Chief Webb. They did not speak much. They understood what this session represented. A test of the candidates, a test of Jordan, a test of whether legacy meant anything when you were too exhausted to remember your own name. At 2,000 hours, 84 candidates filed into the training bay. They moved like old men, their muscles battered, their minds fogged. Some were shivering despite the warm building. Others stared at nothing, their eyes 1,000-yard and distant. All of them wanted to be anywhere else. Jordan stood at the front of the formation. Behind her, Senior Chief Cross and Senior Chief Webb stood at attention. Master Chief Kane entered from the back, taking position in the observation area. The lights dimmed, not completely, but enough that shadows became significant, enough that the candidates had to work to see. Jordan's voice cut through the exhaustion. You have been awake for approximately 36 hours. You are cold. You are tired. Your body is breaking down. Good. Now I am going to teach you how to fight when your body has nothing left. A groan went through the formation. Jordan ignored it. Pair up. One partner will attack. The other will defend. You will rotate every 60 seconds. If you execute the technique correctly, your partner goes down. If you fail, you do burpees until I tell you to stop. Begin. The session was methodical brutality. Jordan demonstrated a technique once. The candidates attempted to replicate it. Most failed. They did burpees, then tried again. Some succeeded. They moved to the next technique. The ones who failed did more burpees. 30 minutes in, candidates started dropping. Not quitting, just collapsing. Medical staff pulled them to the side, evaluated them, sent them back into training if they were capable. 60 minutes in, the techniques became more complex. Ground fighting, submissions, escapes from inferior positions. The candidates were beyond exhausted now. They were operating on something else. Discipline, pride, fear of ringing the bell. Whatever fuel kept humans moving when the tank read empty. Jordan circulated through the pairs, correcting form, demonstrating variations. Her voice stayed level, not sympathetic, not harsh, just present. a constant reminder that technique mattered even when nothing else did. 90 minutes in, Master Chief Kane stepped onto the training floor. His voice carried absolute authority. Lieutenant Mitchell, demonstrate advanced application. Choose 4 assistants. Jordan understood immediately. This was not part of the plan they had discussed. This was Kane improvising. Testing her, testing the candidates, showing them something they needed to see. She pointed to 4 candidates. You, and you. Step forward. 4 men extracted themselves from the formation. They were exhausted, barely capable of standing, let alone fighting. Perfect. Jordan addressed the remaining candidates. These 4 will attack me simultaneously. Full contact. Rules of engagement. No strikes to throat or groin. Otherwise, treat this as real combat. If they succeed in taking me down and maintaining control for 5 seconds, you all get to rest. If I control all 4, you continue training. The stakes were clear. The 80 candidates still in formation understood that their exhaustion could end or continue based on the next 60 seconds. Jordan took position in the center of the mat. The 4 candidates spread out around her. They were bigger than her. They were trained, or at least had 3 days of her instruction. They were motivated by the promise of rest. But they were also operating on fumes. Master Chief Kane raised his hand. On my mark. 3, 2, 1, execute. The first candidate lunged. Jordan sidestepped, used his momentum against him, executed a simple hip throw that put him on the mat. 1 down, 3 seconds elapsed. The second and third moved together. Jordan went low, swept one candidate's legs while simultaneously grabbing the other's uniform, using their collision to tangle them both. 2 and 3 down, 7 seconds elapsed. The fourth candidate was smarter. He waited, watching, conserving energy. When Jordan turned to face him, he moved carefully, hands up, proper fighting stance. He was not rushing. He was thinking. Good. That was what she wanted them to see. Intelligence mattered more than aggression. Jordan and the fourth candidate circled each other, twice around the mat. She could hear the formation breathing, watching, hoping. 15 seconds elapsed. The candidate feinted left, moved right, tried for a takedown. Jordan sprawled, defending with proper technique, then countered with a front headlock. She could submit him easily. Instead, she held the position, controlling him but not finishing him. 25 seconds elapsed. Jordan released the headlock and stepped back. The candidate stood up, confused. Jordan addressed the formation. This candidate did something important. He did not quit. He did not rush. He used his brain despite being exhausted. That is what operators do. We think under pressure. We adapt. We survive. She turned to Master Chief Kane. Master Chief, I assess these candidates have demonstrated sufficient understanding of fighting while exhausted. Recommend we secure from this evolution. Kane studied the formation. 80 candidates, all of them barely standing, all of them watching Jordan with something that looked like respect mixed with exhaustion and desperation. Then he looked at the 4 candidates on the mat, 3 of them still recovering, 1 of them standing tall despite everything. Kane nodded, agreed. Class 347, you have 15 minutes rest. Hydrate, treat injuries, then you return to surf passage. Lieutenant Mitchell, secure from training, well executed. The candidates collapsed where they stood. Some sat, some lay flat on the mat, some just bent at the waist, hands on knees, breathing like they had forgotten how and were relearning the process. Jordan moved through them, offering water, checking on injuries, providing quiet words of encouragement. These were not her enemies. These were future teammates, future brothers. They deserved her respect and her knowledge and her refusal to let them quit before they discovered what they were truly capable of. Senior Chief Cross approached. That was impressive, Lieutenant. They will remember this night. Jordan nodded. They will remember what their bodies can do when their minds refuse to quit. That is the lesson. Cross smiled. That is exactly what your brother would have said. The 15 minutes ended. The candidates returned to Hell Week. Jordan secured the training bay, filed her after-action report, and returned to her quarters. She was not exhausted. She had not been operating for 36 hours straight, but she felt drained in a different way. The weight of responsibility, the knowledge that her words and actions would shape how these men approached combat for the rest of their careers. She sat on her bunk and pulled out Liam's dog tags, ran her thumb over the stamped letters. Mitchell, Liam J. USMC, blood type, religion, service number, all the information needed to identify a body, all the information needed to notify a family. She thought about Master Chief Kane's revelation. 3 generations of Mitchell men connected to 3 generations of Kane men. Her grandfather helping Kane's mother, Liam saving Kane in Ramadi, and now Jordan teaching the next generation at Kane's request. It was legacy, but it was also burden, because legacy meant you could not fail quietly. You could not disappoint just yourself. You disappointed everyone who came before and everyone who would come after. Jordan put the dog tags away and lay back on her bunk. Tomorrow she would return to regular instruction. Class 347 would finish Hell Week. Some would quit, some would graduate. All of them would carry forward what they learned in that training bay on Saturday night when a female lieutenant taught them that exhaustion was just a state of mind. But tonight she allowed herself to feel the weight of it all, the deaths, the sacrifices, the expectations, the duty. Tomorrow she would be strong again. Tonight she could be human. Sunday morning arrived with gray sky and cold wind. Jordan returned to the training compound at 0600. Hell Week continued. The candidates looked worse than they had the night before, which seemed impossible but was somehow true. They moved like zombies, their eyes hollow, their movements mechanical. But they moved. That was what mattered. They had not quit. Monday, the class lost 10 more candidates. 74 remained. Tuesday, 5 more rang the bell. 69 remained. Wednesday, Hell Week ended. 69 candidates had started Friday evening as 140 hopeful sailors. They finished Wednesday morning as 69 proven warriors who had discovered they could endure more than they ever imagined possible. Jordan stood with the other instructors as Master Chief Kane addressed the survivors. You have completed Hell Week. You have proven you possess the physical capability and mental toughness required to continue Bud's training. But this is not the end. This is the beginning. The next 20 weeks will test you in different ways. Technical skills, tactical knowledge, operational planning. Every day is an evaluation. Every evolution is an opportunity to prove yourself or reveal weakness. He paused, letting them absorb that. Some of you will not make it. Some of you will be injured. Some will quit during land warfare or dive phase. That is acceptable. What is not acceptable is quitting because you think you cannot. You have proven you can endure. Now prove you can excel. The class was dismissed. They shambled toward the medical area for evaluation, then to the barracks for their first full night of sleep in 5 days. Jordan watched them go, feeling a complicated mixture of pride and concern. Pride because they had endured, concern because the hardest part was still ahead. Hell Week proved they could suffer. The rest of Buds would prove they could think while suffering. Master Chief Kane appeared at her shoulder. You did well, Lieutenant. The candidates responded to you. They learned from you. Most importantly, they respected you. That is not something that can be taught. That is earned. Jordan nodded. Thank you, Master Chief. Kane was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke again, his voice lower. Walk with me. There is something else we need to discuss. They walked to Kane's office. He closed the door, gestured for Jordan to sit. She remained standing. Old habits. Kane did not insist. Lieutenant, you have been an instructor for 6 months. In that time, you have demonstrated exceptional teaching ability. The candidates respond to you. The staff respects you. You have proven yourself capable. Jordan waited. There was clearly more coming. Kane continued. Captain Stone has requested you for a special assignment. There is a joint training exercise being planned for next month. Multiple special operations units, SEALs, Marines, Army Special Forces, Air Force Pararescue. The exercise will include advanced hand-to-hand combat training as part of the curriculum. Captain Stone wants you to lead the instruction. It was a significant opportunity. Joint training exercises were high visibility. Success would accelerate her career. Failure would end it. Jordan considered the implications. Master Chief, I am honored by Captain Stone's confidence. What is the concern? Kane's expression was serious. The concern is politics. Some of the other units have never trained under a female instructor. Some of their leadership is skeptical. You will face questions, challenges, possibly outright hostility. Not from everyone, but from enough people that it will matter. He leaned against his desk. I am telling you this because you need to make an informed decision. You can accept this assignment and potentially advance your career while dealing with significant resistance. Or you can decline and continue developing your skills here at BODDS, where you have already proven yourself. Either choice is acceptable. but you need to understand the stakes. Jordan thought about Liam, about her grandfather, about 50 years of Mitchell family service, about Master Chief Kane's father dying in Vietnam, about all the weight of history that pressed down on this moment. Then she thought about the 4 candidates she had faced during Hell Week, about how they had kept fighting despite exhaustion, about how discipline carried them when strength failed. She met Kane's eyes. Master Chief, I accept the assignment. If I am going to face resistance, better to face it while doing something meaningful. Better to prove myself in front of multiple units than to play it safe. Kane nodded slowly. That is what I expected you to say. That is also what your brother would have said. Probably what your grandfather would have said too. He opened a desk drawer and pulled out a folder. These are the details. 3-week exercise. Starts 4 weeks from now. You will have 2 weeks to prepare curriculum and coordinate with other instructors. Captain Stone will be overall exercise commander. I will be senior enlisted advisor. He handed her the folder. Read through this. Questions come to me. And Lieutenant, one more thing. Yes, Master Chief? Do not try to prove you are as tough as the men. Prove you are a better teacher. That is what they need to see. That is what will change minds. Jordan took the folder. Aye, Master Chief. Understood. She left Kane's office and walked back through the compound. The training areas were relatively quiet now, the post-Hell Week lull before the next phase of instruction began. She found Senior Chief Cross and Senior Chief Webb in the equipment room, inventorying gear. Cross looked up. Lieutenant, you look like you just received interesting news. Jordan set the folder down. I have been assigned to lead hand-to-hand combat instruction for a joint special operations training exercise next month. Webb whistled low. That is significant. Who else is participating? Jordan opened the folder and scanned the details. SEAL Teams 3 and 5, Marine Special Operations Regiment, Army 75th Ranger Regiment, Air Force 24th Special Tactics Squadron. Approximately 200 operators total. Cross and Webb exchanged glances. That was a lot of eyes, a lot of opinions, a lot of opportunity to either excel or fail spectacularly. Webb spoke carefully. That is a good opportunity, Lieutenant. Also a significant challenge. Some of those units have never worked with female instructors. Jordan nodded. Master Chief Kane mentioned that. I am not concerned with their opinions. I am concerned with teaching them something useful. Cross smiled. That is the right attitude. What do you need from us? Help preparing curriculum. I want to develop scenarios specific to joint operations. Urban environments where different units need to coordinate. Hostage rescue with multiple entry teams. Close quarters battle with mixed unit composition. All of it incorporating hand-to-hand combat as a fallback when weapons fail. Webb pulled out a notepad. We can do that. We have 2 weeks, Jordan confirmed. 2 weeks to prepare, 3 weeks to execute, then back to Bud's instruction. The 2 senior chiefs spent the rest of the afternoon helping Jordan develop training plans. They pulled from their combat experience, their teaching experience, their understanding of how different military units operated. By evening, they had a rough outline that looked challenging but achievable. Jordan returned to her quarters that night feeling prepared but not confident. Preparation was about controlling variables. Confidence required knowing how those variables would actually behave under pressure. She would not have confidence until she stood in front of 200 special operations professionals and proved she belonged there. But she had 2 weeks to prepare, 2 weeks to refine techniques, 2 weeks to anticipate questions and challenges, 2 weeks to make sure that when the moment came, she would be undeniable. The next 14 days passed in focused intensity. Jordan worked 12-hour days developing curriculum. She consulted with other instructors, gathering their input. She reviewed after-action reports from joint exercises, identifying common problems and gaps in training. She practiced her demonstrations until the techniques were automatic, muscle memory so deep she could execute them exhausted, injured, or under stress. Senior Chief Cross and Senior Chief Webb assisted throughout, providing feedback, role-playing difficult scenarios, challenging her assumptions. Master Chief Kane observed periodically, offering quiet suggestions, ensuring she was prepared for both the training and the politics. 2 days before the exercise began, Captain Richard Stone summoned Jordan to his office. Captain Stone was in his mid-50s, weathered and professional, with the quiet confidence of a man who had spent 30 years earning respect rather than demanding it. Lieutenant Mitchell, sit. Jordan sat. Captain Stone studied her with the same assessing gaze she had experienced from Master Chief Kane months ago, the look of senior leaders deciding whether to invest trust. You understand the significance of this assignment? Yes, sir. Good. Then understand this as well. I requested you specifically because I believe you are the best instructor for this job. Not the best female instructor, the best instructor. Your technical knowledge is excellent. Your teaching ability is proven. Your combat experience is legitimate. He leaned forward. But some of the participating units will not see it that way initially. They will see your gender first, your rank second, your capability last. Your job is to reverse that order as quickly as possible. Demonstrate capability so undeniably that gender becomes irrelevant. Jordan met his eyes. Sir, I understand. I will execute this assignment professionally and effectively. Stone nodded. I know you will. One more thing. This exercise includes a demonstration component on the final day. Each instructor presents their specialty to the entire group. I want you to demonstrate advanced multiple opponent scenarios. Show them something they have not seen before. It was both opportunity and test, a chance to showcase expertise, a chance to fail publicly if things went wrong. Jordan did not hesitate. Aye, sir. I will prepare an appropriate demonstration. Good. The exercise begins Monday morning, 0800. Be ready. Jordan spent the weekend making final preparations. She reviewed her notes. She visualized teaching scenarios. She prepared equipment and training materials. And she thought about Liam, about what he would say if he were here, about how he would approach this challenge. He would tell her to focus on the mission, to ignore distractions, to remember that respect is earned through competence, not demanded through position. So that was what she would do. Monday morning arrived clear and cool. Jordan reported to the Joint Training Facility at 0730. The facility was impressive, a combination of classroom space and practical training areas, all of it designed for multi-unit coordination and advanced tactics training. 200 special operations professionals were already there, divided into unit groups, all of them projecting that specific energy of elite warriors who know they are elite. Jordan saw SEAL Tridents, Marine Force Recon insignia, Army Ranger tabs, Air Force pararescue patches. Every man there had earned the right to be confident, and every man there was watching her with varying degrees of curiosity, skepticism, and assessment. Jordan set up her training area methodically. Rubber mats, training weapons, protective gear, focus mitts, everything organized and professional. Senior Chief Cross and Senior Chief Webb arrived to assist, their presence providing both support and legitimacy. At 0800, Captain Stone called the assembly to order. He stood on a platform at the front of the facility, his voice carrying authority that transcended rank. Gentlemen, welcome to Joint Special Operations Advanced Tactics Training Exercise. For the next 3 weeks, you will train together, learn from each other, and develop capabilities that will make you more effective when operating in combined environments. We have assembled the best instructors from across Naval Special Warfare Command to lead this training. He gestured to Jordan. One of those instructors is Lieutenant Jordan Mitchell. She will lead hand-to-hand combat training. Lieutenant Mitchell is a decorated combat veteran with multiple deployments. She completed Advanced Training Command Instructor Development course as top graduate in her class. She has spent the last 6 months as a BUDS instructor, teaching candidates the same techniques she will teach you. Stone's voice hardened slightly. I expect every operator here to approach this training with professionalism and respect. Questions about technique are encouraged. Disrespect of any kind will not be tolerated. Is that understood? 200 voices responded in unison. Yes, sir. Stone stepped down. Jordan stepped up. This was it, the moment where she either proved herself or proved the skeptics right. She looked at 200 faces. Some interested, some neutral, some openly skeptical. She did not try to read them all. She simply began. Good morning. I am Lieutenant Mitchell. For the next 3 weeks, I will teach you hand-to-hand combat techniques optimized for joint operations. These techniques are practical, proven, and potentially life-saving. Whether you believe I am qualified to teach them is irrelevant. What matters is whether you are willing to learn. She paused, letting that settle. Then we will find out together. 3 weeks can feel like 3 years when every day is a test. Lieutenant Jordan Mitchell stood in front of 200 special operations professionals and understood immediately that this would be different from teaching BUDS candidates. Candidates were blank slates, eager to absorb knowledge, desperate to prove themselves worthy. These operators were already proven. They had combat experience. They had their own training. They had their own opinions about what worked and what did not. And many of them had opinions about whether a female lieutenant had anything useful to teach them. Jordan could see it in the body language, the crossed arms, the skeptical expressions, the whispered comments between teammates. Not all of them, but enough. Enough that if she failed to establish credibility in the first hour, the next 3 weeks would be an uphill battle she could not win. So she did not waste time with introduction or credentials or explanation. She simply demonstrated. I need a volunteer, someone who believes they already know hand-to-hand combat well enough that this training is unnecessary. The silence lasted 3 seconds. Then a hand went up from the Army Ranger section. A staff sergeant, mid-30s, heavily built, confident. His name tape read Martinez. Martinez stood and walked to the training mat. He moved with the easy confidence of someone who had been in more than a few fights and won most of them. Jordan recognized the type, not arrogant, just certain of his capabilities. Staff Sergeant, what is your background? Martinez stood at parade rest. Ma'am, 11 years Army, 6 with Ranger Regiment, 2 deployments Iraq, 3 Afghanistan, Battalion Combatives Instructor Certification, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Purple Belt, solid credentials, legitimate training, exactly the kind of operator she needed to work with, not against. Good. You understand grappling fundamentals. Now attack me like you would attack an enemy combatant who just disarmed you. Martinez did not hesitate. He moved in fast, professional, going for a clinch that would allow him to use his size and strength advantage. Jordan let him close the distance, let him think he had control, then executed a technique that looked simple but required perfect timing. She redirected his momentum, used his forward pressure against him, and took him down with an Uchimata throw that put him flat on his back with her in mount position. 2.3 seconds from initial contact to dominant position. Jordan stood up and offered Martinez a hand. He took it, his expression shifted from confident to surprised to thoughtful. Jordan addressed the group. Staff Sergeant Martinez did everything correctly according to standard combatives training. He closed distance, established control, used his size advantage. He would defeat 95% of opponents with that approach. But in special operations, we do not train to defeat average opponents. We train to defeat the 5% who are as skilled as we are. She gestured to Martinez. Thank you, Staff Sergeant. Return to your unit. Martinez nodded, still processing what had happened, and walked back to the Ranger section. Jordan noticed the whispered conversations had stopped. The crossed arms had loosened slightly. She had their attention now. The question was whether she could keep it. For the next 2 hours, Jordan taught basic principles: leverage over strength, timing over speed, technical precision over aggressive energy. She demonstrated each concept, then had the operators practice in pairs. Senior Chief Cross and Senior Chief Webb circulated through the groups, providing feedback, correcting form, ensuring everyone was actually learning rather than just going through motions. By midday, the skepticism had not disappeared, but it had diminished. The operators were starting to recognize that Jordan's techniques worked regardless of who was demonstrating them. Some were still reserved, still watching carefully for any sign of weakness or incompetence. Others had fully bought in, asking technical questions, requesting additional demonstrations. Progress was progress. The afternoon session focused on weapon retention and disarming techniques. Jordan demonstrated how to prevent someone from taking your weapon, then how to take someone else's weapon if the situation required it. The techniques were aggressive, practical, designed for life or death situations where hesitation meant death. An Air Force pararescue technical sergeant named Williams raised his hand during a demonstration. Ma'am, that technique assumes the enemy is untrained. What if they know the same counters you are teaching us? It was a legitimate question. Jordan appreciated that he was thinking tactically rather than just absorbing information. Good question. If your opponent knows the same techniques, then combat becomes about who executes with better timing and positioning. At that level, physical conditioning matters. Mental composure matters. Combat experience matters. But the technique remains the foundation. Without proper technique, strength and aggression will only carry you so far. She demonstrated a variation. If you encounter someone who counters your initial move, you transition immediately to a secondary technique. Fighting is fluid, not scripted. You learn the techniques until they become automatic. Then you adapt them in real time based on what your opponent gives you. Williams nodded, satisfied. The group continued training. By the end of day one, Jordan had taught approximately 6 hours of material and demonstrated her techniques against a dozen different volunteers. She was not trying to prove she could defeat everyone. She was proving she could teach everyone. There was a difference. That evening, Captain Stone found her in the equipment room, securing training gear for the next day. His expression was neutral, which Jordan had learned meant he was evaluating rather than judging. First day assessment? Jordan set down the focus mitts she had been organizing. Mixed results, sir. Approximately 60% bought in immediately. 30% are still evaluating. 10% remain openly skeptical. Stone nodded. Better than I expected. The skeptical 10% will convert or they will not. Focus on the 90% who are willing to learn. What is your plan for week 2? Week 2, I increase complexity. Multiple opponent scenarios. Environmental variables. Stress inoculation through fatigue and time pressure. I want them making decisions under pressure, not just executing techniques in controlled environments. Stone considered this. Approved. But be careful with the stress inoculation. These are not buds candidates. They are experienced operators. Push them hard enough to learn, not so hard that you lose their respect by treating them like recruits. Jordan understood the balance he was describing. Aye, sir, I will calibrate appropriately. One more thing, Lieutenant. Your final demonstration is scheduled for Friday of week 3. I need to know what you are planning. Jordan had been thinking about this since receiving the assignment. She needed something that would demonstrate capability without appearing to show off. Something that would teach a lesson while proving a point. Something that would make the skeptical 10% reconsider their opinions. Sir, I want to demonstrate against multiple opponents simultaneously. Not scripted, full contact within safety parameters. I will face volunteers from different units, different sizes, different skill levels. The demonstration will show that proper technique allows a smaller operator to control larger opponents through superior positioning and timing. Stone studied her. How many opponents? 4, sir. Possibly 5 if you believe a 5th would strengthen the demonstration. Stone was quiet for a long moment. That is ambitious, Lieutenant. If you fail, the skeptics will use it as evidence that your techniques do not work. If you succeed, they may claim the volunteers were not trying hard enough. Jordan met his eyes. Sir, I would rather be criticized for attempting something difficult than praised for playing it safe. The operators need to see what is possible, not what is comfortable. A slight smile crossed Stone's face. You sound like your brother. He told me something similar in Afghanistan right before a mission that nearly got him killed. But he succeeded, and the mission was successful, and the team learned something important about calculated risk. He nodded. 4 opponents. Final demonstration. Make it count. Week 2 progressed with methodical intensity. Jordan increased the complexity of scenarios, introducing variables that required operators to think tactically while executing techniques. She set up multiple opponent drills where teams had to coordinate their attacks while defending against counterattacks. She created environmental challenges where operators fought in confined spaces on uneven ground with limited visibility. The training was hard but productive. The initial skepticism continued to erode. Martinez, the Ranger Staff Sergeant from day one, became one of her most enthusiastic students, asking detailed questions about advanced applications and offering feedback from his own combat experience. Williams, the Air Force Pararescue Sergeant, started helping demonstrate techniques, his own skill level sufficient that he could showcase the material effectively. But the skeptical 10% remained unconvinced. A Marine Gunnery Sergeant named Holbrook was their unofficial leader. He participated in training, executed the techniques competently, but his body language broadcast doubt. He never openly challenged Jordan, never violated the professional standards Captain Stone had established, but his skepticism was obvious to anyone watching carefully. Jordan did not confront it. She simply continued teaching, trusting that results would speak louder than arguments. Midway through week 2, Master Chief Kane visited the training area during an afternoon session. He did not interrupt, simply observed from the back of the facility, his presence noted by everyone, but acknowledged by no one. Jordan continued the session as if he were not there, demonstrating a complex ground fighting sequence that required precise timing and body positioning. After the session concluded, Kane approached. "Walk with me, Lieutenant." They walked through the facility to an outdoor area overlooking the training fields. Other operators were conducting their own evolutions, the organized chaos of military training visible in every direction. Kane spoke without preamble. "You are doing well. The staff reports are positive. Captain Stone is satisfied with your progress. Most of the operators are learning." Jordan waited. There was clearly more. Kane continued, "But I am concerned about your final demonstration. 4 opponents simultaneously is aggressive. You will be facing operators who are larger, stronger, and highly skilled. If you make one mistake, you will lose. And that loss will define how some people remember this entire exercise." Jordan had anticipated this concern. "Master Chief, I understand the risk, but I also understand that safe demonstrations teach safe thinking. These operators need to see what is possible when technique is applied correctly under maximum pressure." Kane turned to face her directly. "Your brother said almost exactly those words to me in Ramadi before he volunteered for an assignment that should have killed him. He survived through skill and luck. You may not have the same luck." It was the first time Kane had directly compared her to Liam in a way that suggested concern rather than encouragement. Jordan understood what he was really saying. He was not questioning her capability. He was expressing the fear of someone who had lost warriors he cared about and did not want to lose another. "Master Chief, I appreciate your concern, but I am not my brother. He took risks because he believed in bold action. I am taking this risk because I believe in calculated demonstration. I have been practicing these scenarios for 2 weeks. I know what I am capable of. I know my limits. And I know that proving those capabilities to 200 operators will do more good than playing it safe." Kane studied her face, then he nodded slowly. "Very well, but understand this. If you fail, I will not let it define you. One demonstration does not erase months of successful instruction. Do not put more weight on this moment than it deserves." Jordan appreciated the sentiment, but she knew the truth. In communities like this, reputation was built over years and destroyed in moments. The final demonstration would matter, whether Kane wanted it to or not. Week 3 arrived with the weight of expectation. The training schedule shifted to focus on integration and review. Jordan spent the week ensuring all operators had mastered the fundamental techniques, then progressed them to advanced applications. She conducted scenario-based training where mixed units had to coordinate hand-to-hand combat responses during simulated operations. The results were impressive. Operators who had started the exercise skeptical were now incorporating her techniques into their tactical planning. Unit leaders were discussing how to integrate hand-to-hand combat training into their regular preparation. Even Gunnery Sergeant Holbrook, the Marine skeptic, was executing techniques with professional competence, though his doubt had not completely disappeared. Thursday evening, Jordan conducted her final preparation for the demonstration. She reviewed her techniques, visualized the scenarios, prepared mentally for what would come. Senior Chief Cross and Senior Chief Webb assisted, role-playing aggressive opponents, testing her responses, ensuring she was ready. Cross spoke as they finished the final rehearsal. "Lieutenant, you are ready. You have been ready. Tomorrow is just showing everyone else what we already know." Jordan appreciated his confidence, but she also knew that confidence alone would not be sufficient. She needed execution, perfect execution, under pressure, in front of 200 sets of eyes. Friday morning arrived clear and cool, the final day of the exercise. The entire morning was dedicated to demonstrations from various instructors, each showcasing their specialty. Demolitions, communications, medical procedures, close quarters battle tactics. Each demonstration was professional and informative. Jordan's demonstration was scheduled for 1400 hours, 2 hours after lunch. Maximum visibility, maximum pressure. At 13:45, she began her setup. The training mat was positioned in the center of the facility where everyone could see. Medical personnel were staged nearby, standard protocol for full contact demonstrations. Captain Stone and Master Chief Kane stood in the observation area, their presence lending weight to the moment. The 200 operators formed up around the mat, creating a rough circle. Jordan could see every face, the believers, the skeptics, the curious, all of them waiting to see if she could deliver what she had been teaching for 3 weeks. At 1400 precisely, Captain Stone called the formation to attention. "For our final demonstration, Lieutenant Mitchell will showcase advanced multiple opponent hand-to-hand combat techniques. This demonstration will be full contact within established safety parameters. Lieutenant Mitchell has requested 4 volunteers from different units. I need a Ranger, a Marine, a SEAL, and an Air Force operator. Volunteers step forward. Hands went up throughout the formation. Captain Stone pointed to 4 men. Staff Sergeant Martinez from Rangers, Gunnery Sergeant Holbrook from Marines, Senior Chief Webb from SEALs, Technical Sergeant Williams from Air Force. Jordan felt a spike of adrenaline. Martinez was skilled and professional. Williams was competent and willing to learn. Webb was her friend and would be professional but not easy. But Holbrook was the skeptic, the doubter, and he had just volunteered to prove his point in the most public way possible. The 4 men stepped onto the mat. They spread out into positions around Jordan, forming a loose diamond. All of them were bigger than her. All of them were combat veterans. Holbrook was the largest, maybe 220 pounds of Marine muscle and skepticism. Captain Stone addressed the formation. Rules of engagement: no strikes to throat, groin, or eyes. No joint breaks. Otherwise, treat this as force-on-force combat. Lieutenant Mitchell will demonstrate control and positioning techniques against 4 simultaneously attacking opponents. Time hack, 90 seconds. Questions? No one spoke. Stone raised his hand. On my mark. 3, 2, 1, execute. Martinez moved first, testing her reaction time. Jordan sidestepped, redirected his momentum, executed a throw that put him on the mat. 4 seconds elapsed. Williams and Webb moved simultaneously from different angles. Jordan dropped low, swept Williams while using Webb's own forward pressure to redirect him into Martinez, who was getting up. 7 seconds elapsed. 2 opponents tangled on the ground, 1 opponent down, 1 still standing. Holbrook waited. He was not rushing. He was analyzing, watching for patterns, looking for openings. Smart. Jordan turned to face him directly. Martinez and Williams were recovering. Webb was extracting himself from the tangle. She had maybe 5 seconds before she faced all 4 simultaneously. Holbrook moved with sudden explosive speed. Not a wild charge, but a professional assault using proper technique. He went for a clinch, using his weight advantage, trying to press her against the mat boundary where she would have limited movement options. Jordan did not try to match his strength. She used angles instead. She pivoted outside his attack line, executed a foot sweep that compromised his base, then transitioned immediately to an arm drag that put her on his back. From there, she could have applied a rear naked choke. Instead, she maintained position control while the other 3 opponents converged. Martinez reached her first. She released Holbrook and used his body as a barrier between her and Martinez, forcing them to maneuver around each other. In that half-second of confusion, she executed a drop Seoi Naj throw on Martinez, using his own momentum to send him rolling. 15 seconds elapsed. Webb and Williams were coordinating now, trying to attack from opposite sides simultaneously. Jordan went on the offensive, charging Webb before Williams could get into position. She feinted high, went low, took Webb down with a double-leg takedown, immediately transitioned to Williams, who was closing fast. Williams grabbed for a clinch. Jordan accepted it, then used his grip against him, executing a hip throw variation that sent him to the mat. 22 seconds elapsed. All 4 opponents were down, but none were eliminated. They were all combat veterans, all trained in ground fighting, all capable of continuing. Jordan needed to maintain momentum. She moved to the center of the mat, forcing them to come to her, controlling the pace and positioning. Holbrook and Martinez stood up simultaneously. Webb and Williams were recovering. 4-on-1 again. 68 seconds remaining. Holbrook spoke as he advanced. Impressive technique, Lieutenant. But technique only gets you so far. Eventually, size and strength matter. Jordan met his eyes. Eventually is not now, Gunny. She attacked before he expected it, closing distance aggressively, using the surprise to execute a perfectly timed Tomoe Nage sacrifice throw that launched Holbrook over her body and onto the mat. She rolled through the technique and came up on her feet, immediately transitioning to face the other 3. 30 seconds elapsed. Martinez, Webb, and Williams were more cautious now. They had seen Holbrook go down twice. They understood they were not facing someone who relied on strength. They spread out wider, trying to make her divide her attention, looking for the opening that would allow them to overwhelm her position. Jordan made a decision. She had proven she could take each opponent down individually. Now she needed to prove she could control multiple opponents simultaneously. She moved toward Martinez and Webb, deliberately putting Williams behind her, creating a tactical disadvantage. Martinez and Webb attacked together. Jordan dropped into a low stance, used Martinez's leg as a lever to unbalance Webb, then rolled through both opponents in a technique that looked like chaos but was actually controlled movement. She came up with Martinez in a guillotine choke position, and Webb tangled with Holbrook, who had been getting up again. 45 seconds elapsed. Williams attacked from behind as expected. Jordan released Martinez and spun to face Williams, executing a standing armbar that controlled him without taking him down. She held the position, demonstrating control rather than finish. 55 seconds elapsed. All four opponents were either down or controlled. Jordan released Williams and stepped back to the center of the mat, hands up in a ready position, breathing hard but controlled. The four operators stood up slowly, all of them showing the effects of 45 seconds of hard combat. Captain Stone's voice cut through the silence. Time, 62 seconds, secure from demonstration. The facility erupted. Not with polite applause, but with the kind of noise that happens when warriors witness something that impresses them. Shouting, hooting, the universal sounds of respect being given to someone who earned it. Jordan stood at attention, waiting for the noise to subside. The four opponents approached her one by one. Martinez first. Ma'am, that was outstanding. Thank you for demonstrating what proper technique can accomplish. Webb next, grinning despite his exhaustion. Told you she was ready. Williams, shaking his head. I'm going to request you come teach my unit, Lieutenant. That was exceptional. Then Holbrook. The big Marine gunnery sergeant walked up slowly, his expression serious. He came to attention, rendered a perfect salute. Lieutenant Mitchell, I owe you an apology. I spent 3 weeks doubting whether you could teach me anything useful. You just proved that my skepticism was based on bias, not evidence. Thank you for the lesson, and thank you for not embarrassing me while teaching it. Jordan returned the salute. Gunny, you attacked with professional intensity and tactical intelligence. You gave me nothing easy. That is what made the demonstration effective. Thank you. Holbrook nodded and stepped back. The four operators returned to the formation. Captain Stone addressed the group. That demonstration showcased several important principles. First, that technical proficiency can overcome size and strength advantages when applied correctly. Second, that proper positioning and timing matter more than aggressive energy. Third, that assumptions about capability should be based on evidence, not preconceptions. He looked directly at Jordan. Lieutenant Mitchell has spent 3 weeks teaching you techniques that could save your life in combat. She has done so with professionalism, competence, and patience. I expect every operator here to take what she taught and integrate it into your unit training. Dismissed. The formation broke up. Operators approached Jordan to ask questions, request additional demonstrations, express respect. She spent the next hour answering questions and demonstrating variations until her voice was hoarse and her body was exhausted. Finally, as the facility cleared out, Master Chief Kane approached. His expression was complicated. Pride mixed with something else, something that looked like memory and regret. Walk with me, Lieutenant. They walked out of the facility into the late afternoon sun. Other training areas were securing for the day, operators returning to barracks, the normal end-of-day activity visible throughout the base. Kane was quiet for a long time, then he spoke. Your demonstration was exceptional, better than I expected, better than most demonstrations I have seen in 30 years. You proved every point you needed to prove. You changed minds. You earned respect that will follow you throughout your career. Jordan waited. There was clearly more. Kane continued walking. But I need to tell you something I should have told you months ago but did not know how. They reached a quiet area overlooking the ocean. The same Pacific that had been there when Jordan first arrived at Coronado. The same water that had witnessed generations of warriors being forged through adversity. Kane turned to face her. When Liam saved me in Ramadi, we spent 40 minutes pinned in that building waiting for extraction. He was injured. I was injured. We both thought we might not make it out. And during that time we talked. He paused, gathering words. Liam told me about you, about how you had just joined the Navy, about how you were training to become a SEAL, about how he was worried you would face resistance and skepticism and bias, about how he wanted you to succeed but did not know how to help you from Iraq. Kane's voice was quiet but intense, and I promised him that if anything happened to him, if he did not make it home, I would make sure you became the warrior you were meant to be. Not by protecting you, by preparing you, by pushing you harder than anyone else, so that when you faced resistance, you would be undeniable. Jordan felt something shift in her chest. All the hard evaluations, all the impossible standards, all the testing that had seemed excessive at the time. Master Chief, you have been preparing me since the day I arrived. Kane nodded. Liam knew his job was dangerous. He knew the odds, and he wanted to make sure that if he gave his life, it would mean something, that his sacrifice would pave the way for his sister to succeed. So he asked me to be hard on you, to never accept good enough, to make sure you were always the best. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded letter. This is from Liam. He gave it to me in Ramadi, asked me to hold it until you had proven yourself worthy of reading it. I think today you proved that. Jordan took the letter with shaking hands. The paper was worn, folded and refolded many times, stained with dirt and sweat from 17 years of being carried in combat zones. Master Chief, I do not know what to say. Kane's expression softened. Read it later when you are alone, but know this. Your brother saw your potential before anyone else did. He saw what you could become. And everything he did, including dying on that patrol in Helmand Province, was about making sure you had the chance to become it. Jordan carefully placed the letter in her pocket. She would read it later, in private, when she could process whatever Liam had written 17 years ago. For now, she stood with Master Chief Kane and watched the sun set over the Pacific Ocean and understood that legacy was not just about honoring the past. It was about carrying forward the faith that others had placed in you. The joint training exercise concluded with a formal debrief and dismissal ceremony. Units returned to their home bases carrying new skills and, more importantly, new respect for capabilities they had not expected to find. Several unit commanders requested Jordan for future training exercises. Captain Stone noted her performance in official evaluation reports with the highest possible marks. But for Jordan, the real conclusion came 3 days later, alone in her quarters, when she finally opened Liam's letter. The handwriting was rough, written quickly, probably by flashlight in a dusty building in Ramadi while waiting for extraction. The words were simple, but heavy with meaning. Jordan, if you are reading this, it means I did not make it home. I am sorry I will not be there to see what you become. But I know what you will become because I have seen it since you were 10 years old, following me around, asking to learn how to fight. You are going to face resistance. People will doubt you. They will question whether you belong. They will make assumptions based on what they see rather than what you are capable of. Do not waste energy fighting them with words. Prove them wrong with actions. Become so undeniable that their skepticism looks foolish. Master Chief Kane is a good man. He is hard but fair. He understands what it takes to forge warriors. I have asked him to watch over you, not to protect you, but to prepare you. Trust him. Let him push you beyond what you think you can do. That is where you will find out what you are truly capable of. Remember what I taught you: technique over strength, discipline over aggression, think over react, and most importantly, mission over ego. Bring everyone home. That is what we do. That is what Mitchells have always done. I am proud of you, little sister. I have always been proud of you. Now go make the world see what I have always seen. Love, Liam. Jordan read the letter 3 times. Then she carefully folded it and placed it in the wooden box where she kept Liam's dog tags and the other small artifacts of a life spent in service. She sat on her bunk and let herself cry for the first time since Helmand Province. Not from sadness, from release, from understanding that Liam's death had not been random or meaningless. He had chosen to die so others could live, and in making that choice, he had also chosen to invest in her future. Every training session Kane had conducted, every impossible standard he had maintained, every test he had designed, all of it had been Liam's final gift to his sister. The grief did not disappear. It never would, but it transformed into something else, something like purpose, something like determination to honor not just his sacrifice, but his faith in what she could become. 2 weeks later, Master Chief Derek Kane announced his retirement after 30 years of service. The ceremony was formal and well-attended, filled with the kind of military pageantry that marks the end of distinguished careers. Speeches were given, awards were presented, stories were told about operations and training and the countless ways Kane had shaped naval special warfare over 3 decades. Jordan attended in dress uniform, standing with other instructors, watching as the community honored one of its legends. Near the end of the ceremony, Kane called Jordan forward. The request was unexpected. She walked to the front of the formation, unsure what was happening. Kane stood at a podium, his voice carrying across the assembled crowd. In my 30 years of service, I have had the privilege of serving with warriors. Some gave their lives. Some gave their time. All gave something of themselves to make this community stronger. He paused. Today I want to recognize one officer who represents the future of Naval Special Warfare. Lieutenant Jordan Mitchell has spent the last year as an instructor, teaching hundreds of candidates and operators the skills they need to survive combat. She has done so with technical excellence, professional dedication, and personal courage. Kane reached into his uniform and removed his Master Chief Trident insignia. The gold badge, worn and polished by 30 years of service, caught the light. This trident has been with me through 4 combat tours and countless training evolutions. It represents everything I believe about what it means to be a warrior. Competence over ego, mission over self, legacy over individual achievement. He stepped down from the podium and approached Jordan. Lieutenant Mitchell, your grandfather served with my father in Vietnam. Your brother saved my life in Iraq and gave his life saving my men in Afghanistan. You have spent the last year honoring their sacrifice by teaching the next generation to be warriors worthy of their legacy. He pinned his trident to Jordan's uniform, just above her own seal insignia. This represents continuity. From my father to me, from your grandfather and brother to you, from us to the next generation. Wear it with the understanding that legacy is not about individual glory. It is about ensuring that those who come after us are better prepared than we were. The formation erupted in applause. Jordan stood at attention, feeling the weight of Kane's trident against her chest, understanding that this moment was both an ending and a beginning. Kane's career was ending. Hers was continuing. And the lessons he had taught her, the skills he had forged in her, would be passed forward to everyone she taught. After the ceremony, as the crowd dispersed, Commander James Walsh approached Jordan. He was older now than he had been during her instructor evaluation. White-haired and distinguished, wearing the uniform of a man who had given 40 years to the Navy. Lieutenant Mitchell, may I speak with you privately? Jordan followed Walsh to a quiet corner of the ceremony venue. He studied her with the assessing gaze of senior officers who are trying to determine how much truth to share. Finally, he spoke. I served with your grandfather in Vietnam, William Mitchell. SEAL Team 1, Mekong Delta, 1972 to 1973. He saved my life during a river patrol when we were ambushed. I was a young lieutenant, green, inexperienced. I made a tactical error that nearly got our entire team killed. Your grandfather covered my mistake, killed 3 enemy fighters, and extracted me under fire. Walsh pulled out a worn photograph. The image showed young men in Vietnam-era gear, faces smudged with camouflage paint, weapons in hand, standing beside a river patrol boat. One of them was clearly Walsh, young and uncertain. Another was recognizable as a younger version of Master Chief Kane's father. And a third was William Mitchell, Jordan's grandfather, looking confident and capable. I have carried this photograph for 50 years as a reminder that I owe my career, my life, and my family to your grandfather. When he died in 2009, I was unable to attend his funeral. I was deployed. I never got to thank him properly. Walsh handed the photograph to Jordan. Your family has been saving lives for 3 generations. Your grandfather saved me. Your brother saved Master Chief Kane and his men. And today, I watched you demonstrate techniques that will save countless operators in future operations. You are continuing a tradition that spans 50 years. Jordan looked at the photograph. 3 generations of warriors connected across decades by bonds of honor and sacrifice and mutual obligation. Her grandfather, Kane's father, all of them young in the photo, all of them confident, none of them knowing what fate would bring. Commander Walsh, may I keep this photograph? Walsh nodded. It belongs with you. It represents your lineage, your legacy, the foundation upon which you have built your career. Jordan carefully placed the photograph in her pocket. Thank you, sir. This means more than you know. Walsh came to attention and rendered a salute. The thanks belongs to your family, Lieutenant, for 50 years of service, for saving people like me and Master Chief Kane, for teaching the next generation. That is the definition of legacy. Jordan returned the salute. 2 days after Kane's retirement ceremony, Jordan visited Arlington National Cemetery. She had been there before, for Liam's funeral 3 years ago, but she had not returned since. The weight of grief had kept her away. But now, carrying Liam's letter and Commander Walsh's photograph and Master Chief Kane's trident, she felt ready to visit properly. The cemetery was quiet in the way that only cemeteries can be. Thousands of white headstones marking thousands of lives given in service. Jordan walked the familiar path to Section 60, where the recent casualties were buried, where Liam rested among other warriors who died in Iraq and Afghanistan. She found his headstone, simple, white marble, his name, his rank, his dates, his awards, all the information that reduced a complex human life to essential facts. Jordan knelt and placed her hand on the cold stone. "Hey, big brother. Sorry it took me so long to visit. I have been busy living up to your expectations." She told him about the instructor course, about Master Chief Kane's revelation, about the joint training exercise and the demonstration, and all the ways she had tried to honor his sacrifice. She told him about the letter, about reading his words and understanding finally what he had done, what he had set in motion, what he had believed she could become. And she told him that she understood now, that his death had not been meaningless, that every life he saved, every operator she trained, every technique she taught was a continuation of what he started. "I am not going to let you down, Liam. I am going to keep teaching, keep training, keep making sure that the next generation of warriors is ready for whatever comes. That is how I honor you. Not by grieving endlessly, but by carrying forward what you believed in." A voice spoke behind her. "He would be proud of you." Jordan turned. Master Chief Derek Kane stood 10 feet away, also in civilian clothes, also carrying flowers. She had not heard him approach. Kane walked forward and placed his flowers at the base of Liam's headstone. "I come here once a month, have since he was buried. I owe him that much." He stood beside Jordan, both of them looking at the headstone. "Your brother told me something in Ramadi that I never forgot. He said legacy is not about what you accomplish. It is about who you enable to accomplish things after you are gone." Kane turned to face Jordan. "You have enabled hundreds of operators to survive combat through your teaching. You have changed the culture of how our community approaches hand-to-hand combat training. You have proven that capability matters more than assumptions. That is legacy, Lieutenant. That is what Liam wanted for you." Jordan stood up. "Master Chief, what do I do now? I have proven myself as an instructor. I have completed the mission you and Liam set for me. What comes next?" Kane smiled. "What comes next is you continue serving. You take the next assignment. You face the next challenge. You train the next generation. That is what warriors do. We do not retire to glory. We serve until we cannot serve anymore, and then we pass the torch to someone worthy of carrying it forward." He gestured toward the thousands of headstones surrounding them. Every person buried here understood that. They gave their lives believing that their sacrifice would enable others to live free, to serve honorably, to continue the mission. You honor them not by being perfect, but by being present, by showing up every day and doing the work, even when it is hard, even when it hurts, even when you question whether it matters. Jordan looked at her brother's headstone one more time. Then she looked at Master Chief Kane. Then she looked at the thousands of white stones marking thousands of sacrifices made by thousands of warriors across generations. She understood now. Legacy was not a destination, it was a journey. It was not about achieving perfection. It was about maintaining standards. It was not about individual glory. It was about collective strength passed from generation to generation, warrior to warrior, teacher to student, across decades and centuries. "Master Chief, I am ready for the next assignment." Kane nodded. "Good, because SEAL Team 7 needs a hand-to-hand combat instructor for their pre-deployment training. 6 months, high operational tempo, challenging students. You interested?" Jordan did not hesitate. "Absolutely, Master Chief." They walked together out of the cemetery, past the thousands of headstones, past the reminders of sacrifice and service, past the weight of history, and into the future that their teaching would help shape. Behind them, the sun set over Arlington, casting long shadows across the white stones, marking the end of another day, the continuation of a legacy that had begun 50 years ago and would continue as long as warriors understood that their responsibility was not just to themselves, but to everyone who would come after them. Lieutenant Jordan Mitchell was 29 years old. She was a Navy SEAL. She was an instructor. She was the granddaughter of William Mitchell, who saved lives in Vietnam. She was the sister of Liam Mitchell, who gave his life in Afghanistan. She was a warrior in a long line of warriors, and she was just beginning to understand what that meant. The hard part was not over. It would never be over. There would always be another class to teach, another technique to refine, another operator to train, another generation to prepare for the realities of combat. But that was fine. That was the mission. That was what Mitchells did. They taught, they served, they sacrificed when necessary. They brought everyone home when possible, and they passed forward the knowledge and skills and discipline that would ensure future warriors had every advantage when they faced the chaos of combat. Jordan Mitchell wore Liam's dog tags around her neck. She carried Master Chief Kane's trident on her uniform. She kept Commander Walsh's photograph in her quarters as a reminder of connections that span generations. And she carried forward the lessons that her grandfather and her brother and Master Chief Kane had taught through their actions and their sacrifices and their unwavering commitment to the mission. She was ready for whatever came next because she understood finally what strength really meant. Not the ability to defeat any opponent, not the capacity to endure any hardship, but the wisdom to know when to fight and when to teach, when to lead and when to follow, when to speak and when to let actions demonstrate truth. That was the legacy she had inherited. That was the legacy she would pass forward. That was the meaning of the 3 words that would define the rest of her career and every operator she would train in the decades to come. Earned in blood, proven in silence. That was the warrior's way. That was the Mitchell way. And that was how Jordan Mitchell would continue serving, teaching, and honoring the sacrifices of everyone who came before her until the day she too passed the torch to someone worthy of carrying it forward. The mission continued. The legacy endured, and the next generation was already waiting to be taught.